This week, we'll be discussing what's meant by a political economy approach to the media. In this first video, I'm going to briefly define what is meant by this term, as well as outlining the background to the economic conditions of contemporary media industries, specifically the shift to neoliberalism. In the second and third video, I'm going to discuss some of the implications for media industries that came from this move to neoliberalism, including greater concentration of ownership. In the fourth video, I will look in particular at the political economy of social media. Then in the fifth video, I'll consider the extent to which government funding and regulation can address some of the problems of a free market approach to the media in the current era, with a specific focus upon New Zealand. As Dennis McQuayle explains, the political economy perspective is a socially critical approach that focuses primarily on the relation between the economic structure and dynamics of media industries and the ideological content of media. It directs attention to the empirical analysis of the structure of ownership and control of media and to the way media market forces operate. To understand the economic structure of media industries today, though, we need to first go back in time to the 1980s. This is because New Zealand's economy, following international trends, went through a radical transformation at this time that has shaped the media industries thereafter. Prior to the 1980s, media markets were generally subject to government regulation that limited the share of the market that any one company could hold, restricted cross-media ownership so that, for example, TV stations couldn't own newspapers, and in the case of New Zealand, had legislation that regulated foreign ownership of domestic media companies. This was in an attempt to stop monopolies developing, to ensure media diversity, and to protect local and regional media outlets. However, these regulations were swept away in the move towards a neoliberal approach to the economy. Neoliberalism was spearheaded by the right-wing governments of Ronald Reagan in the US and Margaret Thatcher in the UK, but it was adopted in New Zealand under the Fourth Labour government and became so associated with the Finance Minister Roger Douglas that it became known as Rogernomics. It advocated that the free market is the best way to produce goods and services. The idea that there should be no kind of restrictions or regulations on ownership or market share within a country, but also between countries. That there should be no kind of state intervention in industry. This approach argues that supply, in other words a specific media output, is determined by audience demand, and that it doesn't matter who supplies that media. As a result, restrictions on foreign ownership and cross-media ownership of the media were removed in New Zealand, alongside similar decisions in the US and UK, and regional free trade agreements were signed between groups of nations. What was the result of this then for the media industries? This is what we're going to begin to address in the next video.